Hello, everybody. It's the Lord of O.R.D, the Fortean Digital Shaman. And today, we got another episode of Shamanism 101 with HALIEL, MAGI, and other guests. And guess a little bit of note business. You finished your book? Good for you, buddy. First thing is that Linda Eastberg should be interviewing me. She wants to, at least Wednesday, about my experiences with Sasquatch. And also, hopefully Tuesday, we'll be doing a show with Mike Patterson, Ontario Sasquatch, I believe it is. If I got that wrong, my apologies. Anyways, should be interesting. I got that out of the way. So we got some guests in the house here. We got a few. Get Kara back in here. What's going on, HALIEL, MAGI?
It's going great. We just got done actually doing a small deep dive in some theologies, things alike. So we're coming in a little hot. Excited for sure.
Do you know Ren? Should I let her in?
You'd have to ask
Kara? You guys, do you know Ren?
Ren is the same Ren from the Discord, so she should be good to come in.
She's safe. Okay, we'll have her in there. Okay. Welcome once again, Nicole 0069, Kara, once again, Ren, Lilith Rose. So yeah, bro, what are we going to talk about? I would like to talk about a few things, but about shamanism in particular, about the tree, the cosmic tree, the zones, the underworld, the middle world. Yeah, the pole, the whole, because we've got different ideas from different parts of the world. But I don't know where to begin. Maybe I'll let you lead the way. You're the shaman, bro.
Well, so first, I would like to say again, thank you for having me. Really appreciate at least being able to get a platform to get this information out, so people aren't just kind of like shooting in the dark, hoping to catch something. When it comes to the cosmic tree, it's one of the most versatile symbols that we have throughout not only our ancient past and our social and I guess you could say religious developments, but in our artwork and even in our pattern recognition. And it's not just for us, though. It's literally for our entire reality. Shamanism, as you know, has no specific tie to any specific theology, religion, so on and so forth. It is a lifestyle. It is a craft, most definitely. And its roots are in that of animism, at least for that application, if you were to say everything is connected, everything's alive.
Can I interject? Can I ask you a question? Animism. It seems to me that even all major religions, their roots is animism as well. Isn't that the case?
Every single one.
You just don't admit it. That's all.
No, I mean, like 100%. Every single one that we have today owes its existence to its evolutionary, ancestor being animism, which at least is the first form of venerative ritualistic practice we see from our species, including ritualistic burying, shamanistic work, even before the word shaman ever existed, things of the like. Like I said, it was the witch doctor, the one who tried the new herbs to figure out, hey, what did what? And I'm going to pass that information on to the, rest of society. I would use the ones that we do know that alter my state of mind and perception so I can see new angles, see from different perceptions, so on and so forth. So it included all aspects, the pharmaceutical, the psychological, the metaphysical, the philosophical, the mathematical, all of it, right? And how it started is first we venerated everything. We venerated the tree as much as we venerated the ant. We venerated the ant as much as we have venerated us. We have venerated us as much as the beautiful cosmos that we would look up in a perfectly clear night thousands of years ago and see nothing but the most beautiful picture of our Milky Way, right? We venerated everything. But as time went on, it became more and more locked with what we dealt with every single day. So our first gods were primarily either a version of us or a direct version to an animal or force. Then it grew to a hybridism, if you will. And by the time we get to like the Sumerian age, the Mesopotamian age, the Babylonian age, and then eventually the Egyptian age, right? Now we have the hybrids, right? Half human, half alien, half animal gods, right? With specific powers to do specific things. And most of them are named after ancestors of the people who wrote about these stories, right? So they venerated their ancestors as forms of deities who brought certain things. Like, hey, I'm the one that discovered fire. And over, a couple hundred years, they were, the god of fire, right?
Right.
So yes, every single one, and I hate to go on that long rant, but in detail, every single one owes itself to animism. And shamanism was just our practice on how to navigate it.
Do you ever ask yourself who was the first Prometheus? You know what I'm saying?
Every day of my life.
Who was the dude that figured out about fire, and how it went about it? And then etc. So what is it? What is Prometheus?
All I do, for me, I connect to it as a child. The first time I made a fire, the first time I experienced the fire, what, like I dwell on what I, as part of the ape species, perceived this action as, and what went through my head about what is it? Am I afraid of it? Do I fear it? Do I venerate it? Do I, test it? Do I manipulate it? What do I do?
How do I harness it?
Right, but harness it doesn't come to mind. Again, the only thing I can do to kind of connect to who maybe how the first Prometheus thought about it is to quite literally go to my own experience of the very first time I came in contact with this thing. What went through my head?
It was pretty magical, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You ever ask yourself why they demonized Prometheus? Why? What did he ever do to anybody?
Why did the gods?
Yeah, why them and then okay, it's us as humans.
So,
they seem the priestcraft. Yeah, the priestcraft having a tendency to demonize Prometheus for some reason.
Yeah, they did. They did. It's mostly because they wanted to establish a very set divination. Here's the thing: if everyone can be a god and a manifester and a creator, that means no one is technically, quote unquote, special, ahead of the curve, automatically do their diligence, right? The elite don't exist.
Yes, you don't need them, do you?
No.
We don't.
That's what it breaks down to.
That's the great fear, isn't it? People's realization that they don't need the priestcraft.
We outnumber them 1,000,000 to 1.
Yeah. That makes you wonder about that, doesn't it? So back to the sorry for sidetracking you. Where were we at before I sidetracked you about Prometheus? I find him a fascinating character. And I just find him just, when you look at like people in the Abrahamic faith and how they've been brainwashed into hating the Prometheus. I don't understand it.
Well, it's because he embodies the light bearer.
Right.
And what does the light bearer do? He shines the light, meaning shadow cannot hide, meaning no more skeletons in the closet. Shadow work.
Shadow work, absolutely. It's like, I don't know. I just can't. For now, I'm going through the phase of just the shocking realization that the Bible is a book of, in my personal opinion, black magic. full of darkness.
Well,
Everything about it.
it's got a lot of it in it. It's got fire magic. It's got invocation. It's got sigil. It's got it all.
A lot of hiding in plain sight.
The Bible, technically, is a grimoire.
Yeah, it sure is.
No, it's literally a collection of grimoires.
So Damerge, what do you think about that in connection with Yahweh? And I
Are
was
we
thinking,
talking the demiurge as in the flooding system, or are we talking the demiurge as in Zoroastrianism? I do need that clarification.
either or, you go with it.
I mean, demiurge scientifically, I don't like addressing it because it just doesn't. It couldn't have existed.
Right.
Unless you're thinking astrologically and you include it as the quote unquote Oort cloud. However, with Zoroastrianism, depending on the variant you utilize, it is the embodiment of anti. So you have a hydrogen molecule, it is the anti hydrogen molecule.
Okay.
Its very embodiment was a distortion, like its creation was considered blasphemous according to the Zoroastrian. It was considered blasphemous to the other 12, we'll call them archons, right, of existence.
Okay.
When Sophia, or Ashra, if you will, created a sub-universe without the interaction of another. And so the child, supposedly the universe of this, or part of universe, takes form as, I guess you could say, the Satan, if you will, of all of reality. It simply is. If reality is positive, it is negative. That's the best way to describe it.
There's a lot of places you can go with this one. I'm trying to think of where I want to go with it. How about you just carry on with what we're starting with at first, remember? Before I derail this.
I mean, you didn't really derail it because I can demonstrate how all of this is connected to animism.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with
there we go.
the light bearer, right? The discovery of fire, bending of elements, all this jazz. You would look at it and be like, well, what does that have to do with like just being in awe of everything, in which everything is quote unquote magic, energy, so on and so forth. It's that awe of discovery, right? And magic, the application. So as a shaman, we practice a form of, say, for example, healing magic. We can use sound waves to do it. We can do herbs. We can do words of veneration onto another. We can do physical things, right? So on and so forth, via like exercises together. And so when we use these stories, such as the things of like the demiurge, we'll say like the Divine Comedy, we'll say the actual Bible, so on and so forth. We use these stories of fantasy, kind of like we do today with like the Flash and the Avengers and all this other stuff, to kind of explain the science, to explain the kind of reality of, what's going on. And the stories are utilized mostly for children, so that way as they get older they can eventually keep replacing the God of the gaps, God in this gap of understanding, as they get older and wiser and more experienced. And again, this is all by absorbing yourself into nature, into your habitat, in your environment, and the knowledge around you. Like all of it connects. And we've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years.
Right. And then something happened about a couple hundred years ago, right? With Modernia. Something happened. Would you not agree? Because we don't seem to be connected like our ancestors.
Well, it's mostly due to our food, the amount of plastics and other crap. and
what,
and how high we're amping certain frequencies.
right. Well, it doesn't seem like we've been assault at war with animism and our connection with the creation.
Especially in the 30s and 40s.
It seems like it's today, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's almost like it's a double.
Cycle.
What's that?
It's almost like a cycle too, because it happens in perfect 20, 35, 33. It's 21, 33, 57, 72, 96. And those are the intervals of weeks, months, years, and decades, for repetitive like recycling and so on and so forth for societies. So like when they go to war, when they go in war, when a pandemic is utilized, because again we've been using biological warfare for like again thousands of years.
Absolutely. Poisoning the well, figuratively, literally, right?
Yep.
It seems, yeah, it's one of the first stages of war, isn't it? Psychopomp. What's this connection with what you're talking about?
What do you mean psychopop?
Well, first of all, what is it, and then what is its connection with the storytelling? Does that make sense? Isn't the shaman is basically
I'm trying to understand what you mean by psychopop, if I'm hearing that right.
psychopomp, right? Psychopomp. This is this whole idea about this shaman being kind of the mediator between realities and sharing the stories and telling people what's going on, not only in our immediate physical reality, but the realities around us. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not
No,
an
I mean I agree. I mean I have nothing against with what your description is. I've just never heard psychopop before.
Okay. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Is there another way of
Maybe, I
saying
don't know. I just don't recognize it. My apologies.
it? No, that's all right, man. So, because I just sort of thinking about is like this connection with the other worlds, the other realms, or these cosmic zones that are part of our journey, whether the shaman or those just, well, like we said, anyone can be a shaman, right? It's a way of life.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, like anyone has the potentiality to become one,
right.
but it is something you actually have to like. It's not just willy nilly. You're just like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. I'm a shaman. Like you have to be a caregiver. You have to like. There are certain things you have to practice via like herbology. Probably like take a dance class at least because you're going to be doing a lot of physical movement and dancing. Things alike, right? But it's not based off of any religion. Its core roots are animism and it's
Right.
veneration and it's an exploration and being that, like you said, mediator between this reality, which don't forget about it, right? Just because you're learning to escape to a degree and visit other ones doesn't mean you just, quote unquote, forget about this one, right? Take care of this one. You're here for that reason.
So, what do we got this? So, the subconscious. What's this shaman's connection with the subconscious and helping to understand it and to bring it out to the open?
Well, so I do also want to clarify, I cannot speak for every shaman. For each shaman, it could be as different as, an individual's fingerprint. I want to be very clear on that. But there are commonalities. So, for example, many of us utilize things like yoga, sparring, dancing, figurative dancing, like that. We like to kind of really hone in, both sober and elevated, how our brains work in accordance to our physicality, to become hyper aware of both our physical body as well as the body outside. That makes sense.
For some reason, I'm thinking of is that the whirling derbyshires? Is that what they call is that what they're called in the Middle East? There, the Muslims, that one sect. You know what I'm talking about? The ones that spin around and spin around and spin around.
I'm trying to think of what you're thinking. I just can't remember their name. Like I know who you're thinking about. But think of it more of. All right. So have you ever seen like Central or Southern African um, tribal dances?
Sorry about that. That was my neighbor upstairs who wants me to take them. The whirling dervishes. That's a dervish. That's what it is. Thank you, Aaron. You probably know what I'm talking about. I knew I wasn't saying it right. I was hoping someone was going to correct me on that one. But yeah,
No,
this is a very fascinating shamanic group that actually comes out of Mohammedanism. And they spin around and spin around and spin around and get to this kind of high. And then they get these, that's a way of getting a high, connecting with the ethereal realm. And
usage of inertia to throw off your oxygen and blood flow to the brain.
Right.
Which
is interesting. It's Sophie, the Sophie sect. Thank you, Aaron. And so which just goes again, this whole connection with shamanism, animism, and the religions. They're not very far from each other, although they try to separate. Of course, the religion is a terrible thing for us because it's oppressive and it keeps us from having that potential that people want to control things, and so allowing us to have that opportunity to be connected more fully with the creation. So, you heard about like guardian powers and like our spirit teachers. What's the connection with all that?
So, all right. So I'm going to do the theistic expression first, then the scientifical, if that's okay.
Sure.
So, yeah, we have these different levels of different entities that kind of take on different personifications to teach us, if you will, certain patterns, certain behaviors, thought processes, things like they're guides. Some can be more aggressive than others. Others are almost, you kind of have to constantly chase them to kind of get what you want. And we see this both in kind of like a subconscious way, especially in response to traumas. But we also see it in a chemical way, especially through numerous, interviews during trips, under different types of hallucinogenics, both controlled and uncontrolled. So, I mean, if you're gonna say the Abrahamic, I would say it kind of goes like you have aeons, then archons, then praetos or premos, then lords, seraphim, so on and so forth, all the way down and then all the way back up on the opposite inferno side, right? Because not all of them are like, love and light. Some of them are quite destructive. One of my favorites is Ifrit, specifically of, the primos of fire. So kind of like the same idea of like what you were saying earlier with, why do I keep forgetting his name? Greek god with fire.
Prometheus?
Prometheus. Thank you. My apologies.
That's right.
Brain farted.
My brain's always farting, man. Got so many things in my head. So, yeah. So go ahead with Prometheus. What about?
Yes. Now, scientific wise, like I would like to say, there. You can go to the University of London, Cambridge. I know we have a lot coming out of the University of Chicago. Just so on and so forth. We have a lot of sleep studies, both sober and under influence, both cocktails, singulars, so on and so forth. And when studying the brain, we see an actual shift, right? We see, for some reason, a download, if you will, of information, and memory storage of the synapses, in ways that we would only see, like in the expressions of, deep concentration. However, it's also firing certain ways that the rest of the body is just in complete, absolute rest mode. So it's the phenomena of it is well documented. Scientifically, can we explain it down to a T? No. Are these individuals or entities that we're interacting with, actually there, or are they simply the, other versions of us? And when we're in this state, it's our most true selves teaching us about true reality, the parts of our bodies that are collecting data. We just don't, in our normal, application of day, perceive it.
It
So
seems
even as as an atheist, that's what gets me thinking every day.
so. How do you juggle this? Between the materialistic side and then the spiritual side, the left right hemisphere, the brain. How do you balance that out? Because it seems to me that at times they're at war with each other.
Oh, they're always at war, but it's more so you can choose. I mean, obviously through meditative practices, breathing techniques, creating ritualistic habits, if you will, to get you in a specific mindset, that causes you to do so. For example, right? All right. So you know how you can do you can point with your thumb up and point with your thumb down.
Okay.
Okay. We'll do that with both hands, but opposite to each other,
Right.
and then flip them back and forth. That causes you to use both sides of your brain, and then try to communicate while you're doing so. You're going to find that it becomes extremely difficult all of a sudden. But by practicing this little technique, your physical body is teaching your neurological body how to use both the logic and the emotional side of the brain alongside linguistics, which gives you the ability to quite literally multitask.
Which is something I struggle with terribly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to do right
And
now.
again, by doing this, and then tapping back into nature, paying attention to the mathematics, the geometry, the frequencies, like learning all this stuff. It's the same with, for example, if you want to levitate an object, get a frequency generator, find, look up real quick the frequency that, the specific material that it's made out of resonates at, and then you just find its correspondence, you turn the fucker up and watch, boom, it'll levitate.
Say that again?
So, like, for example, you could take anywhere from a 20-pound, iron dumbbell to a brass, we'll say, cooking pot, or a aluminum can, things of the like. And simply by knowing what frequency they synchronize and resonate to, you simply find its, farthest correspondence, which will give it its most reverb, right? Its rejection force. And all of a sudden, boom, you turn that sucker on and you can levitate any object you wish, so long as you know the right corresponding frequency.
Okay. Is that something that you think that like the Tibetan monks know?
Oh, absolutely. They just don't know it in the same way that I explained it. So they understand it as a concept. They definitely utilize it, but it's kind of like the idea of the cell phone, right? You understand its concept. You can utilize it just fine, but that doesn't technically make you, an electronic engineer.
It's so interesting. The more you get into this, you tie the things together with physics, uh, elect, electric engineering, I guess would be part of it as well, or
I hope I'm not too all over the place. I'm just trying to use mundane expressions to kind of convey this knowledge.
Right, but they all tie in, don't they? That's what I'm finding.
They all tie in.
And so he's trying. But here's the thing that I have it's something that I've been thinking about. It's kind of derailed me especially for the show and other things, is this whole thing about this place that we live in and then uncertainty, the amount of questions with no answers. Have you noticed that with your practicing and doing shamanism? I think it's
Oh
one of the
yeah, the
reasons
smarter
why.
I get, the dumber I feel, and the more I learn, the more I find out that it's even smaller than I thought it was before. Well, in comparison to what's really out there, and it used to strike fear. It used to anger me to no end, but now it's turned into a loving passion. I
So
can't wait to learn something new.
right,
Can't
there's
wait to
like
experience something new, good or bad.
there seems to be not much more we can do about this situation, but continue to learn. It seems like how we're designed this way to do this. So
I wouldn't necessarily say designed, but if we are designed, I don't think someone else designed us. As an atheist, like if I were to believe in a designer, right?
right.
Either the person who designed me is a complete and total douchebag,
Well, maybe it is.
or I did this
Maybe they were.
and I did this for a reason. Okay, that's about as
Maybe
far as
they.
I go. Accept it.
What's that? That's as far as you go. What's going on?
Did I zone out or did you?
You
Because
did.
the audio just weirded out.
Yeah, you're just so no. So this whole thing about because I don't believe in God either, right? I don't believe in a single entity and all that kind of thing. But it does seem somehow we were plopped here for some reason to I don't know. There's many different theories out there, from producing loosh to
For
there's
me,
here.
it truly for me, it's just we're here to experience and we're here to collect data.
So then there's the dark side of all things that we don't like to talk about, was the suffering, right?
Well, I
It's,
mean, we call it
I
dark
mean,
because we don't like it.
right. I mean, it's dark because we don't want to talk about it, but at the same token, when you think about this creation and you go back to the shamanism, all that, and it's but there's to help people with trauma, right? To deal with childhood trauma, lifetime trauma. It seems to be trauma is a big issue in all this, right? So I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be negative or anything like that. I'm just trying to,
No, I'm
because
so glad you brought that up because as a
this is
shaman,
what
right,
we're
trauma is a big thing that we work with, right? And at least my goal as a shaman is not to get you to get over your trauma, but for you to embrace it, accept it, and utilize it. And what I mean by that is to get you to a point to where it no longer harms you to address it. And by addressing it, you can learn from it. And by learning from it, you can, in the future, refuse to allow it to remanifest.
Roger. Yeah. You see what Aaron has here? Aaron says, it is said Elohim, specifically Elion, which I don't know about all that stuff, but wanted humankind.
Yeah, I can address that if you'd like.
Yeah, so it's incarnation destroyed by the flood, and it seems to me that a big part of this trauma, is
So,
what we're getting at, is this cataclysmic event that happened in the past. It still haunts
well,
us.
multiple events.
Right.
So the flood as a whole didn't happen, but um, the flood as in a repetitive situation that occurred, especially at the end of the last dryas, when our sea level rose and everything else. Yeah, it happened. And it was generational and it worked like clockwork. Our ancestors wrote it all down in their astrology and things of the like. Specifically, El Elyon in that reference, yes, it's quite literally like we see in Genesis. Once humanity became aware, so they were no longer really cattle, right? They weren't the chimp or dog you could train to do minuscule tasks and communicate to a certain degree. No, they learned quote unquote right from wrong. They realized they were naked in the middle of a garden. They
The
realized
symbology.
that their master was letting them, boink it out in front of everyone while everyone else was clothed. Why is that? These people look just like me. Why? Again, it's the idea of the elite controlling the masses. And once the masses get out of control, well, we all know how that story goes.
All right. Well, maybe. Well, Got mixed feelings about that one. But you know, the thing is too about the in the garden, right? And running around naked and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, how much of this is like symbolic or, you know, a memory of what happened?
A
So,
bit of both.
you know, this cataclysm events, you know, okay, I can agree with you that this place wasn't literally flooded, but if there's a pole shift, right, that pole shift could create massive flooding
No,
in
no, because
certain
we're going
areas.
through one right now. A pole shift usually takes about 100 years to fully shift. So does it change certain things? Yeah, weather patterns to a degree.
Well, isn't this that comes into,
Eventually, over that, span, we'll see, it's changed in increments of like every 5 to 10 years. So pay close attention to your farmer's almanac, everybody. But it doesn't, it's not like a lot of spiritual, new age spiritualists try to say, oh, it's going to shift and like it's going to happen within, 1, 3, 9, or 7 days of darkness. And then there's going to be earthquakes and cataclysms. No, 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 no.
well, what
Not
about the
that.
whole thing about the meteor hitting this place and then that's what's caused it all?
No. Well, I mean, our
Potentially?
it flips. It's kind of like when you have pendulums and all that other stuff, right? It's the same with our electromagnetic field. It's in space, so it flips all the time, kind of like an electron, like as above, so below, kind of
Right.
deal.
Well,
It's just at the micro scale, it's super fucking fast, and the macro scale, it's super slow.
okay. So, you know, so basically my point in bringing this up is there seems to be, this seems something collectively, a traumatic event happened to us over and over again to the point
Yep, we
that,
ingrained it literally into our passing out of every single story across the planet. Yeah.
let's see, the LM is our a good bit deaf than us. Floods were 100% obvious. I believe is, I'm sorry. Obviously, and the poles don't always flip. It's just, do you understand what they're saying there in a fraction of a second?
Yeah, it's
What I
literally
mean,
what I just described.
so this cataclysmic event, there's a theory out there that said that when it happened extremely fast. We're not talking, there was a cataclysm event, not all of them, but one in particular that happened extremely fast within
There
seconds,
was the volcano
hours.
one, I think, that was at the 23,000 mark. I think 23 or 27,000 mark. There was a volcano issue, same size as Mount St. Helens.
And you might ask yourself, what does this have anything to do with shamanism? Now, if we go back to this whole thing about the underworld, middle world, and
Because the
upper world,
shamans were so well in tune with this shit that why do you think they were the ones that survived? Because they were in tune with nature to the point that they could tell it was going to happen before it happened.
and so they headed to the hills and the high ground, right? Type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So, you know, and I
Or
just,
built giant underground cities. Or built boats to ride out the floods.
all the above, right? And of course, then it brings up this fascinating inquiry. When you look at the different species, whether it's in South America, Central America, Australia, and then of course Eurasia, then Africa, and there's like unique animals where there's Australia or South America, like llamas and that kind of thing, and how they evolved over the thousands of years separately. And then I think of our homely opossum. And I think, you know, how did that sucker survive everything, you know? And sometimes I wonder how much are we so much like a opossum. But the thing is, in all this is then what is the connection between the physical and the spiritual? I mean, in other words, because I understand, you know, that there's the ritual thing and there's this, the experiences we have and all that, but there seems to be something going on here that's invisible around us. You know what I mean? We talked about this before the show a little bit, maybe
Absolutely.
bringing up the cryptid side of things, because I do think that there has something to do with all this as far as how we heal and how we learn to accept all that is. And a lot of things that we've been told are brainwashed and think that they're monsters or demons or blah, 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 are just as much victims of this place as we are. I mean, a lot of times I feel like that we're like prisoners, fellow prisoners in a prison trying to help each other survive this prison. Now, if that's negative, I apologize, but I can't find any other way of looking at it. I mean, isn't it part of this whole thing is somehow escaping this place as well?
I mean, if that was the case, why don't you just? Well, I can't say that online.
Well,
Um,
I thought about that too, and a lot of people think about that.
like
But
I
I
mean,
know,
that's 9 day shipping, right? You want to escape? There you go.
well,
It's
yeah, you know,
so like here. I'll even tie it into earlier. So let's look at one of these repeating factors, right? Especially like cryptids, so on and so forth. In every single one, we have the sacred tree, the cosmic tree, the tree of knowledge, the tree of life, the tree of good and evil, the tree of, right? And with our natives, especially in shamanism, many of us will commune with fungi, will commune with the grasses, will commune with the trees. When we use its symbolism, it's in representation to our brain, to a woman's womb, to the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden ratio. It's a representation of the dividend of realms and reality and perception. And so, like when you say that it's we're all kind of stuck, it's kind of like the tree, right? We're growing in both directions, and reality is the bubble, right? And you're the center. And think of it kind of like a battery. You're the battery, and then everything else around you is the electromagnetic field around the battery, which is also in symbolizing to a tree because you have both the top and the roots. And then the centerpiece, the battery, being the trunk.
and the anodes, and then anode, and then what's the other one? Anode and node. And yeah, it's pretty much is a tree. I believe actually is a form of a Tor field or a battery. It definitely generates electricity, and it seems to be something
And
that,
communicates. It's sentient.
yeah, it's true. And then the other thing is, then for my filming and my research, I'm seeing that there's these things that we call spirits or entities or beings or whatever the hell they want to call them. These things that are not that we can't see with our naked eyes, but are around us. They use these trees as kind of like an elevator. I think this is where we stopped last time in our conversation. Actually, it's just this elevator type thing. Like the trees are like an escalator, an elevator. And they're sitting into shamans. And the other parts of the world, they use the tree. It's very symbolically a literal tree, and um, they would like make like footsteps. They would make like steps, like a ladder on the tree, right? And it'd be like 9 steps to lead to the higher heavens or realms. And it seems to me it's not only a form to communicate with the other entities or beings, higher or whatever you want to call them, but it's an escape. Doesn't it seem that our soul, not a soul, our spirit, I think the soul and the spirit are two different things, but we can talk about that as well. But our spirits yearns either to go back into the womb or escape from this place.
Right.
Right. So what's
So
going on there?
it's kind of like our third dimension. So think of it kind of not binary for a minute, right? You have your zeros and ones. Your one is your soul. Your zero is your spirit. Your spirit wants to go in this beautiful cycle of life and death, while the one likes to go up and down in the vertical stagnation, if you will. And that's what creates the field, right? Um, so when you take these symbols, again, this is part of a polarity, a bubble, if you will. And this is why I say it's not that we're necessarily in prison. We're not forced to go through this hell and we have to escape. We're here to experience this. We're going to experience this.
Yes,
But that's not
definitely.
all it is. If
But
that
it
makes sense.
dominates. Yeah, sure, but it dominates our existence, and truly
Yeah.
does. This goes back to shamanism. Shaman's biggest role is in healing, right? The physical healing of
Of
the
the
patient,
mind, body, and spirit. Yes.
right? And that's because this place is very harsh on us, and that's undeniable. I mean, you're a young buck right now. I don't know if you have any health issues, but you
I
know,
have several.
I am old enough to be your dad, and I'm at that age where there's a lot of health issues, and you're just, yeah, my gosh, you know what I mean?
I'm a type
So,
1 diabetic with gastritis, gastroparesis, and there are times that I have had to use magic to stay alive when I had to ration my insulin and not have any for 6 months where my sugar stayed above 600.
well, this is a great opening then. I'm glad we led
Mhm.
to there. So now let's talk about the shamanism and the role of helping and healing and physical. How did you go about to,
Doing
maintain?
that.
Yeah.
So daily physical therapy and meditation, a lot of hydration, specialized herbs and treatments and free focuses. I bombarded my body with like an insane amount of frequencies every single day. I grounded myself physically every single day. I solar absorbed every single day. Like I had to push my body to the ultimate limit of absorption and then the meditation of rearranging all those different forms of energy into what I needed it to do inside my body to force my body to literally drain all the excess sugars and other issues out of my system at a very quick rate, like literally every couple hours.
Interesting.
So, and mind you,
So,
though, after about 4 or 5 months on top of working, my body did eventually just give out. I had 2 heart attacks and had to kind of reset. And luckily, I got my insulin back by then.
excuse me,
Um,
you had 2 heart attacks?
yes, I did.
Who is this guy that I'm talking to? This is
So
fascinating.
I've died several
I mean,
times,
you're a young
man.
buck.
So
You're only 20. You're 32, 33.
32 going on 33.
You had 2 heart attacks along with all these extreme. So this is like
Yep.
this is some,
I have to use magic and shamanism, quote unquote, every single day of my life just to stay alive. So for me, magic is quite literally an everyday practice. It's not, oh, I'm coming online to go, hey, look at me, I'm a witch. Like for years, most people, even people who were extremely close to me, had no idea I was a practitioner. We, especially people like me, we like being left alone.
right. I, I'm a loner, that's for sure. I enjoy my isolation. I think it's a
I
gift.
only
But
started doing this and coming out about it because I saw people using a Hollywood variant to hurt people, and I wasn't about that crap. So I stepped up.
well, I do appreciate you doing this because you have better skills at communicating than I do. So I do appreciate that. And then we do need to have
So I
people
appreciate
more
you.
vocal about this. So this, are you willing to go in more detail about the magic and shamanism and the practices that you did to heal yourself? Because I think this is probably for most people, whether they, I don't know if they're interested or not, but I know I would feel that we should be, right. I mean, this is, these are the skills and techniques that not only
That
help
can
us
save your life. Yeah.
to
So
survive this life. It's tough. It's a bitch
yeah.
for most
So
of us.
for example, as a type 1
Pardon
diabetic,
my language.
regulating my sugars, right? So utilizing THC, keeping up on my lion's mane, doing things like brain games, lectures, um, drawing out and doing the mathematics and the geometry helps maintain logical control.
Right.
Meditating and practicing the breathing techniques allows you to control the amount of oxygen you are flowing through your blood. Um, so you have to break it down to anatomy. You have to know the amount of blood that you have, how much you're pumping through, what your I can test to know how much milligrams of sugar per gram of blood is in my system. By doing that, I can then mathematically go, okay, if my breath or my lungs take in, so much volume of air, air consists of, carbon dioxide, oxygen, hydrogen, things like nitrogen. You break down that numerically, right? This is where the science part of shamanism kicks in. You can manipulate how your body is going to operate and process, right? Kind of like um, a baseline comparison would be like your car, right? Knowing, maybe I should put in, high octane gas this time instead of low octane. Maybe I should change the oil a bit. Maybe I should, change the filter, so on and so forth. It's the same thing. And so every single day, this is what I would practice. I would write my numbers down. I would figure out, the type of breathing I would have to do throughout the day, um, to the point where, at some points you have to literally I wouldn't say ration, but you keep count of every breath to the best of your ability throughout your day. The amount of ounces of water that you're drinking, carbs, what type of vitamins you're taking in, um, the level of the electromagnetic field around you, so you can use the receivers to be able to tell how high the electromagnetic field is in your area, so on and so forth. So by taking all of these factors into account, running the math, and then creating a set of habits, you can regulate your body even against something that is quote unquote killing it. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be 100% effective. A lot of it is placebo and mental. You have to be able to convince your body that it is and can and will do this. And then you also have to, like, for example, I had to get real in tune with my intestines, knowing how to massage them, rotate, and move or exercise certain ways, to force myself to use the bathroom a certain
Sure.
set amount of times a day to make sure the speed in which I was, flushing these things out of my system was at a specific pace. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. But when you're facing something like, for example, type 1 diabetes with no access to things like insulin, you got to get creative. You got to get in tune with nature. When a dog loses its leg, it doesn't just sit there, whine, give up, and panhandle. No, it figures out how to run and fight and hunt without it.
How does how are you? That's criminal. They denied you insulin. Was it because of insurance or
Welcome to
whatever?
America. Welcome to America, man, where it's like 24 to 3 grand sometimes a month.
Well, I got my horror stories, bro.
Yes, definitely. Reiki, self Reiki is an amazing way to also help align this. It keeps your energies focused, it keeps them aligned, it keeps you more aware of when something is off, because then you're not getting the same output from that area as before.
So
Honestly, this part of the shamanism is that huge exploration of oneself.
this is true, isn't it? It's very much true. So that's what this is fascinating. I think this is very important. So this exploration. So where do we go? This you brought up a lot of different areas to focus on. Um, water intake, the simple one. Um, how
I
much?
was
How
drinking
little?
between
What kind of?
96. I was drinking between 96 and 144 ounces of water a day.
That's a lot of water. So you're doing a lot of flushing.
Yep.
You didn't drown with that.
No, because I was constantly moving, constantly stretching, working out, meditating, studying. You also have to take in the calorie intake that you're utilizing via neurological as opposed to general physical. For
So
example, a in-depth conversation, you burn 2 to 11 times the amount of calories utilizing your brain as you do the rest of the organs in your body combined.
you must be a pretty thin dude then, because you use your brain quite a bit. Um, so the water intake. So for somebody who has, which I don't have, but if someone has type 1 diabetes, let's look at this and then we'll go from there because it's the basics, right? The water intake. How much? How often? What type? Is there any? I mean, obviously, tap
So
water. Everyone,
I can't give like straightforward medical advice because I'm not, licensed in that. What I will say though is talk to a physician if you can. If not, research your BMI. There are plenty of websites that you can go into where you can plug in and it will tell you how much water you're supposed to be taking. Now, if you don't have insulin, you want to about 40% add on. So if it tells you to drink about 72 to 80 ounces of water, drink about 92 ounces a day, kind of deal.
I don't think I've ever
Pay
drank
attention
that
to the
much in my
types
life.
of carbs that you're ingesting, and plan it according to the type of physical or mental output you're going to put in that day, to better burn the natural sugars that you're already utilizing.
That's a good point, Aaron. I think everyone's a little different. I know for me,
Yep.
carbs. So next thing is about carbs, and this one will take food intake for your situation. What is it that you needed? Because like me, I function better on a red meat diet, or chicken, or just meat diet. I'm not a strict carnivore,
So
but
if I'm going to be highly physical, it's going to be meats. It's going to be, actually, I would love to get back into eating bugs because, oh man, they're great proteins.
Anyone in particular that you
Crickets. I love roasted crickets.
really? I've heard
Yeah.
that. I've heard people like
Salted
it.
roasted crickets. Oh, they taste so good.
As bizarre as that sounds, I heard, it's not such a bizarre.
I've been around the world, man. I've eaten food from all over the place. Like, there's so many good foods out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Aaron, that is actually something I do. I snack throughout the day instead of big meals. Of course, I have picked up the nickname of a Saiyan because I am so physical and mental all the time that even as a type 1 diabetic, I have maintained 130 pounds for a solid 4 years.
That's good. That is really good.
And I eat when the budget allows it. Like I will put away. I will eat like 6-7 meals a day, and each meal will consist of about 800 to 1,300 calories per meal.
Why do you say that? That's a lot of calories.
Yeah.
I
Oh
can't.
yeah.
I can.
But when I say I'm physically active, I am physically active for around about 18 to 19 hours out of the day. I only sleep between 4 to 5 hours. I have a extremely hyper brain.
Really? You're
Like,
high octane. That's
yeah.
what I like about you. I don't know. I probably drive you nuts, but because I'm super, I'm the complete opposite. I'm the yin to your yang. Have you noticed that? I'm super
You're
slow.
more
and
go with the
fast.
flow, let the data naturally fit in. I'm
Right.
going to try a million things at once, and then whatever one works first, here we go.
That's right. It's actually a good combination. It's done.
It is.
So carbs. What kind of okay, we talked about bugs and high protein, that kind of stuff, and it's really not all that bizarre. It's bizarre to us, but there's plenty of cultures and our
Seasonal
ancestors.
eating is good for you too. Like learning to transition your eating habits along the seasons. Your body will thank you.
I appreciate you saying that. That's one of the things I brought up before and another live on TikTok about this. And there were some people giving advice, and I said, I'm more of I'm first more of a meat eater, but I'm also a seasonal eater. So, and I think that helps my body out a lot more. And I just wonder our bodies, and due to genetics and our ancestors, that maybe that's maybe a more healthier approach for people to go about doing it. Now, so for me, my situation, you probably don't know this, but I have multiple sclerosis, right?
Yep.
I got it after the swine flu jibby jab of 2009, and my life has never been the same since. Plus, I have other things because my mom was Rh negative, my dad was Rh positive, so I have this rare disease that most people don't talk about. It's called Rh negative disease. It's a real disease, by the way. Anyways, but I've noticed diet is a big deal for me, right? I have to be real careful about what I eat. Although there's times I fall off the wagon, but for the most part, if I stay on a more stricter, like high protein diet, that my symptoms like neuropathy and like walking gait,
Goes way down.
basically, I have relapsing, remitting MS, and if it didn't manage my diet to the best of my ability, I would probably be in a nursing home right now, but I'm not. So just like you're saying, and this is part of shamanism, right? I know it's kind of
Absolutely
more the boring side of things, but it's also one of the more practical things and the immediate things, and that is learning how to take care of the meat suit, the avatar that we dwell in, right? And in this physical realm. And I think, it doesn't take much of a genius to realize that modern life and the food that we're in and consuming is causing a problem. You say you're a very active person. Did you notice that if you're like more, doing the book thing, sedentary type thing, does it make your, your disease worse, or is there, do you notice a difference with your activity and how that affects type 1 diabetes?
So, what do you mean by like like being solitary?
I'm saying that you talk about you're very physically active and you move a
Yes.
lot, right? Does
Yes.
that exaggerate things or help things by doing that?
That helps things. If I'm not physically active, I deteriorate extremely quickly.
And I just wonder if that's what's happening to a lot of us. And
If you're not moving, you're dying. That's the law of life. It's the one law constant that I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the frequency of life is motion. If you do
so
not have motion, you are stagnant. It will die.
and it's so true. Like, so I was talking to a guy who's had MS. I don't know if he's even around anymore, but he was in a wheelchair. And the one thing he told me, he said, the one thing I regretted was I stopped walking. I stopped
Yeah.
moving. And, I understand what you're saying. No matter how difficult it may be and how embarrassing it may be, and it's, you just got to keep moving. You got to move the avatar. You got to move. And there seems to be the biochemistry that's in us. If we don't do it, it just becomes very anaerobic and stagnant, isn't it? So this affects us in if whether we want to call it spiritual. You're a spiritual man, right? You don't believe in God, but you're a spiritual man, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, you would consider yourself that at least. So, because which I have no problem. I mean, quite frankly, from my observation, the things that the spirit realm has more in play with our day-to-day life than any imaginary God, except that the imaginary God causes us to be enslaved in a deeper delusion or illusion. But so the God, the spirits, and I don't call them gods because they're not gods, but whether ancestral or regional or, when you're doing your shamanic work and figuring out how to do what you needed to do to maintain, did you notice any kind of downloads, any kind of like interaction?
All the time. I do it. I literally get them every day.
So the question inevitably is going to be, because you got the scientific kind of scholastic kind of approach.
It's honestly gotten to the point, to be honest, and several people have witnessed me do it. It's gotten to the point to half the time I don't even have to research stuff. I just have to get a couple keywords about a situation, and I kind of plug in, then boom, I have the info. Now it's not like perfect, but like I've gotten to that point where I'm starting to just kind of plug in. I don't have to necessarily read a book to know the book.
Did you do any kind of interaction, communication with the spirit realm that helped you to have that download? And if so, what did you do?
I do it every day, literally every day for at least an hour a day.
So what do you do?
I am never not connected.
Is it okay? Is it all right for me to ask? What do you do? I mean, I don't want to cross the
line.
No,
absolutely. Most of my time spent in a mentee. I mean, especially as someone like, I've been called a Metatron, I've been called a Thoth, I've been called Magi, so on and so forth. It's because that's where I spend most of my time. Knowledge, discovery, mastery of arts. It's what I feel my calling is. So that's where I spend most of my time, especially as when I was a child and I went through a lot of the horrific things that I did. It was my safe space. It was the place that, whether or not these entities are real entities or my own mind,
it's probably
they're
both,
what got
right?
me through
There's
it.
Chance to
Yeah,
both.
honestly, it truly does. It does feel, the more that I study it on the science side, that it's both. And that we're just kind of fractal pieces of a bigger version of us.
So this is the challenge that I'm seeing with you, a guy like you, who's, high octane, move. Then the other side of things, when it comes to the being aware, self-healing, and communicating with the parallel universes, if you will, and entities, there's has time to be still. So how do you manage that, or do you not even bother doing that? Because some people don't do it. It's not comfortable with it. It's not part of who they are. You know what I mean? So what do you do?
So could you say that question one more time?
Well, there's this healthy talk. People talk about balance, right? They have balance life. So, and that the part of this is meditation, and part of it is actually actually communicating.
Application. It's taking the metaphysic to the physic. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but it's like juggling that too. So because most people don't want to, we have one leaning or the other, right?
Yep.
And so I know a lot of people like the metaphysic part. That if you're very is it left brain oriented type of thing, it's a hard one to swallow, and it's one that's almost embarrassing to deal with. So what do you do with that? Because you have to deal with it. If you're doing the shamanic thing, you're going to have to deal with the metaphysical and the other side. So, or
Well,
sides.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I utilize it every single day. You have to face it. But
So
see,
do you
that's the
talk?
thing.
Do
It's
you
not. I don't just
recognize it? Do
face
you
it
talk
though.
to it?
Well, yeah, but I don't just face it. I accept.
What's that?
I simply accept it. The first thing I do, amongst all things, is I accept. I either accept or reject. If it's not something I want in my reality or modality, I will just simply reject it and it disappears. If I wish it, I accept it. So it's the same when you're in these other quote unquote realms, when you're finding this balance, when you're trying to keep yourself from going to one extreme, right? You
Uh-huh.
accept that, okay, for some dumbass reason, I'm going off the rocker into this direction. I need to realign myself. So I'm going to reject whatever it is driving me to that point, and I'm going to choose to retune into this other pathway. So yeah, I have to do it every single day.
Okay. At this time, if the rest of you guys want to join in the conversation, you've been very polite and allowing me to have this conversation for an hour with the Magi. But if you have
I
anything
appreciate it.
you want to share, please share. Don't feel like your voice is not worthy of being heard. It certainly is. So, but back to this thing too. And while we're waiting for if somebody talks or not, this whole thing about the tree of life, the pole, um, um, this like these buildings of the past, even some cultures still today, of the yurts and that kind of thing, have a hole. It's lined up with maybe deliberately lined up too with maybe the North Star or some certain star, right? And so there's this pole thing going on, and or the tree, and this connection with the shaman and energy and being connected with the different worlds. And so, I mean, astrology, is that something you think is legit?
Ancient astrology, absolutely. Modern astrology, I think it's a crock of shit.
Well, yeah.
But
So
that's my opinion.
no. That's it makes sense. I mean, I noticed that a lot of some of the ruling class, that those people of a certain class, right? They use a different type of astrology than the rest of us use. So a different calendar, different months, and etc. That kind of thing. So there seems to be something to it. Um, but I just what's your take on this whole thing of being us connected with this part of the universe, also being connected with the stars?
Well, I mean, it's no different than. See, this is why. Like, have you checked out Randall Carlson yet? His work on hidden mathematics.
I have not. I did look at
Okay.
it. And
Please watch at least 40 minutes of it. The first 40 minutes of it. If you can watch that, on our final talk of introduction of shamanism, um, we'll go over that in depth. I absolutely think that we're connected to a degree, but I want to be careful on how I talk about it, and would like at least an hour to actually go over it, because I don't want the modern Hollywood to come out, if you will. I want it to be 100% factual, something that anyone can demonstrate, with their own equipment at home, and things the like. Like, I don't want it to turn into a starseed thing, if that makes sense.
I know this guy. Is this the guy you're talking about right here?
Yep,
I
yep,
know
yep,
him.
yep.
I haven't listened to him in years, but I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah, he's an amazing physicist. I love his work.
He's got one hell of a mind, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
I would
Him,
not be able to
Stephen
keep up with that.
Jarvis, like just
So, this so we got so shamanism is one of the biggest things is healing, dealing with trauma, the trauma physically and
well, that's part of
psychically.
the job. That's part of the job. Just as much as you're doing outside, you need to be doing inside, like with yourself, including
Right.
the experimentation and everything else.
So when you say inside yourself, are you some of these dudes that maybe does more like positive affirmation, or do you do what do you do inside? I mean,
Well, I
or are you
mean,
just
not
talking
everything
about
needs to be positive. If, for example, the person I'm helping needs a serious kick in the ass for reality, I'll give it to them.
right? Absolutely, tough love isn't hurt, but I'm just talking about
Sometimes
you. I'm talking about you.
I'm the same way. It depends, right? If it's something that I do need nurture in, I will most likely reach out to those who I know how to nurture me in a positive way. If it's something that I know that I need to check my shit on because I'm being an asshole and ignorant and going down a path that I know I shouldn't, I'm gonna surround myself with people who are gonna check me, who are gonna make sure I'm doing, what I'm supposed to be doing, and keep me honest. That's my big thing. Like, I don't mind doing the dark shit. Like, I don't mind being baneful. I don't mind doing any of that. Like, I tell people all the time. I accept that I'm just as much as the villain as I am the hero. The only difference is I don't hide it on either side. I am who I say I am. I do what I say and I say what I do, or mean what I say and say what I mean. Um,
Right.
and when you have that level of realism with yourself, you can have that level of realism outside yourself.
Okay. So, what would be some like top 5 recommendations for us to do in order to prepare ourselves to become our own personal shaman?
Uh, One, learn the different forms of meditation. Um, Educate yourself on anything you can. But if you want to be specific to, say, an herbalist, right, someone who works well with herbs, plants, etc., focus on that. If you're more on frequency healing, focus on sound and technology. If find your niche.
So,
Um,
what herbs would help as far as for the other
to get started, regardless, lion's mane.
lion's
Start
mane?
with lion's mane.
I've heard that before. But what's so special about lion's mane?
That mixed with microdosing psilocybin, and you're literally giving your brain everything it needs to create new pathways and retain them.
So, okay, so microdosing using this psilocybin, my lion's manes, and what is that going to do for you in order as far as educating yourself
It's
and
going to help you be
meditating?
able to educate yourself at a quicker rate, a more efficient rate, because it equips you biologically with the process and mechanisms that you will need, tools, if you will, to move forward at a continuously increasing rate.
So then, with meditation, what does you specifically mean by that? Because people have different ideas about that.
There are
I'm
numerous
sorry to
different
be
variables.
I'm sorry to be quizzing
There's
you like this, but
no, I mean, that's the whole
yeah.
point, right?
Okay, right, that's right. Yeah.
um, so, like, for example, you have the type of calm meditation in which you affirm to yourself that all questions are either answered or not questions. All truths are about half truths, and you are there to simply be. Then there's the type of meditation in which you meditate on a focal point, right? You meditate on a flame to practice things like pyrokinesis, telekinesis, things of the like. You can use it for like your sport, so you become hyper focused and aware to specific body movement shifts and recognition of opponents, right? Then there's like battle meditation, right, which is what you could say you now use in sports. You have transcendent meditation, so meditation with specific purpose of gaining of forms of enlightenment or experiences. so on and so forth. So learn the different forms of meditation.
So we got meditation, we got education, and I just lost. Was the third one again? We just talked about. Help me out, folks.
So I said battle meditation.
There was meditation, education, and then shit. I'm sorry.
Finding your niche.
Finding your niche. Is that what it is? What are the
Yeah,
others?
find your niche.
What are the other two for the top 5 you recommend?
So I got 2 more. Let's see. Number 4 would probably be diet. Get on a beneficial diet that works well with you. And then last but not least, learn how to care for oneself as you too will care for others.
So take care
Or
of yourself.
experience others. So, well, not
Holistically.
just care for yourself, experience. This is what I want to change it to. Learn to experience yourself how you wish to experience in others.
Okay. Well, that's a fair say. So a holistic approach, educate yourself on everything you say, basically. Meditation, certain drugs, that's both part of it. That's one, the third one, to use. Some kind of something to assist yourself in your learning. And so you have to do a lot of experimentation, basically. You have to go basically you're going to have to go through the gauntlet of experience and develop the wisdom to eventually become the shaman. So basically,
or as our gamer friends would say, you have to survive the gulag.
No shit, that sure is the case, isn't it? And then if you get through there, then I guess you're worthy to become a shaman. So just as a process. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's not like an easy answer. Everyone wants to have. I know we do. I know I do.
Well, here's the thing, right? I'm a magi practicing shaman, right? I am not your guru. I am not here to just be your teacher. My job is to love you and let love teach you.
Right. So you guys, we're still here. You have any questions? Or is it just like Nicole? You have anything to say?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and mute for a second.
And if you don't, then you don't have to. And if not, we could probably wrap this up for episode 2 of shamanism. There's a lot of things to think about here. It's, one of the things about shamanism I'm noticing that it's like it takes a little bit of here, there, and everywhere. And and it's not really like you can't go to a seminary to become a shaman. You have to have a lifetime. And it seems it takes, some longer than others, but certainly decades of life experience and how to maintain, right? Sure. It really comes down about maintaining to be something that's of value, someone that's of value with other people in their lives. And to be, I think, balanced. And so that you can either do the lovey-dovey stuff, or if you need to get tough, then you go, you can be on both sides and swing back and forth, but still be balanced. Because I think, I was thinking about this too, but anger. There's a lot of people that I know, and I go through it myself, when you start to realize what this place really is, right? The anger, the bitterness. You have to learn how to deal with it. And
you have to learn to accept it. Accept that that's part of you. Accept that that is a legitimate reaction. Whether it's what you may or others may consider as justifiable, it is, in the moment, a real experience. And you have to learn to accept that that is part of you.
Yeah, and there's, I really think a big part of it too is learning how to deal with the trauma of life. I really do believe that's the case. I mean, it might sound negative and maybe too simplistic, but life is traumatic. And I think it's okay to bring that up. And I think it's okay to say, you know what, this, life shitted on me. You know what I mean? Now, how do I deal with it? How do I cope with it? How do I manage because in the end of the day, this really matters. And this is now that comes in with shamanism, how that its connections with whether it's psychology or whether it's self-help, this kind of stuff, that kind of stuff, whether it's the body, the mind, and the psyche, or the
Yeah.
soul, the spirit. And, part of that problem too is that learning how to deal with dualism, what do you, how, it's pretty much, to me, it seems to be that's the case. We're dealing with that, right? He's trying how to deal with this dualistic creation that we live in, one way or another. I mean, how do you feel about that? I'm not talking about less than the religious side of things. I'm talking about the package.
That's why I love the 7 Hermetic principles, because if you know how to utilize them, it literally answers every question you just asked.
The Southern Hermetic principles.
7.
Oh, 7. Okay. I was saying, what's Southern? Never heard of that. Yeah, the Semitic. Do you remember what those are again?
Yep. One is mentalism, all is mind. The other is let's see, trying to do this in the original order. So mentalism, law of correspondence, law of gender, law of frequency, law of trying to do this all by memory. I apologize.
It's okay.
Uh,
I'm sorry to put you on the spot. You don't have to
all right,
say
okay, so hang on, let me go through this again. Mind, dualism, polarity, correspondence, gender. I got 2 more. I already covered vibration, right?
You brought it up earlier.
Could you pull it up for me real quick? I feel horrible for not having this by heart. I apologize.
That's okay, man. This is just, for those who hear this, we're just on the fly. We're just doing this. We didn't even prepare for this show. We didn't prepare for the first one.
So it's
We're just
mentalism,
like, okay,
polarity, vibration, correspondence, gender, rhythm, cause and
Mhm.
effect.
Cause and effect. This sounds like an interesting way to go about it. So the 7 laws of Hermeticism. So I imagine the people that listen to you probably are doing something like that already, or maybe they're not. I don't know.
Well,
But
so especially in the application of magic, right? So the principle of mentalism states that the universe is akin to a mental projection. This is like manifestation 101. All things begin in the mind. Principle of polarity states that everything in this universe is dual. Everything has poles, and the opposite poles are identical in nature but vary in degree.
right.
So a good example is, when does hot turn into cold, right? The principle of vibration states that all things, both physical and spiritual energy, hold a certain vibration, basic sense, or frequency, if you will. The correspondence principle, the second, expresses that the idea that for every one thing there is another. It's correspondence. Principle of gender, which is that all things represent the degree of polarity of masculine and feminine energies, or positive, negative, both in charge and degree. Principle of rhythm. I'm trying to think. Hang on. I'll just pull it up to read it.
It's okay.
The law of rhythm is a law of timing describing the universe ebbs and flows between the differentials of extremes. Much like a pendulum, it governs the cycle of creation and destruction, life and death, everything in between. Everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is equal to the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. And then the last one is, oh no, we went through rhythm is cause and effect. So to every cause, there's an effect, and every effect, there is a cause. There we go.
Interesting.
Sorry, that took me a second.
No, it's good. We learned something. It's a good way at the end of this recording. We've about an hour and a half. And I do appreciate you spending time with me this evening. And I
I
hope that,
appreciate you having me.
yeah, absolutely. It's been slow. There hasn't been a lot of people who've seen it. unfortunate. You know, one of the things I've noticed, bro, is a lot of people aren't interested in shamanism because I don't think they know what it is. And that's why I'm trying to do some of this 101 stuff to introduce people to what it is, because people, I think, automatically think of, you know, taking ayahuasca and hanging out somewhere in South America and all that. And that's not the whole
Like the
thing.
only way
Right?
you're gonna find them is if you go into some random, area of the Amazon, find some, witch doctor who's gonna get you high as balls off some toad, extract, some ayahuasca, and some shrooms.
Right. I, it's been so long since I've done any of that stuff, man. I think that maybe that's what I do need. Maybe just do some of that. And I thought contact you, see where to get some of that stuff again. where do where should we talk about that right here now? I don't know.
Talk about what?
Where to get some decent shrooms.
Yeah, Psychonauts. Go online, look up Psychonaut manufacturers. You can get them everywhere. You can get them in candy bars now, dude.
Just like THC and all that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah. But you can get like I said, lion's mane and psychedelic mushrooms and candy bars. You can get, like, technically you can have the entire periodic table at your disposal from Walmart.
The one thing I noticed about shamanism is it's a lot more interesting and a lot more fun than anything else out there. It's very flexible. Do you notice that?
I mean, next to being a magi, I would agree. Be a real pain in the spiritual ass, though.
Well, that's one of the things I noticed too. And that's one of the things, you know, there is the dark side to all this, and there's a purging and the dark night of the soul type of thing they have to go through, right? It's not much fun. I mean, I'm assuming you've gone through it. I know I've gone through it. I've talked to several other people who've gone down this route, and they have to go through this dark night of the soul. It's just part of the waking up process, as they call it, I guess. Would you agree?
Yes, I would, and we go through it in waves. We see it in history, which that's another part I want to cover on the next episode.
So, what should we next episode? We'll talk about the dark night of the soul.
Yeah, we'll talk about. I would like to cover the rise and falls of society and how one, shamanism brought us through it, and two, like, how we do go through these waves of enlightenment and self-destruction, and enlightenment and self-destruction, so on and so forth.
So we call it rise and fall.
Yeah, I mean, the rise and fall of shamanism.
Okay, sounds like a great title. At least I have one for next time. Hey man, I appreciate you spending this hour and a half with me. Everyone else, thank you for joining us. Kara, thank you for your support, and Nicole 0069.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Aaron, thank you. It was, to me, it's awesome. I don't know if it's to anybody else, but I don't get these opportunities to talk to this way with people. You know what I mean? It's like you get TikTok and all that kind of stuff. It gets a little chaotic, and it kind of goes a direction that I feel that I don't want to sound like a control freak, but maybe I am. Kara, once again. Who else is in there? So the rest of you guys that joined us and those who will hear us, thank you. Think about what the Magi had to say, and see what you can apply to yourself. And a lot of it is kind of like common sense, but at another time, I think we need that push.
And don't just take my word for it. Like, I say it every time I go live. Do not just take my word for it. Do the research. Take what you hear, take what you see, put it into action. Find what works, throw away that doesn't, and come teach me on the stuff I missed.
And I think you brought up last time too is accountability, and having not only mentors, but also have your peers in the same path, kind of helping each other to stay accountable, to really push oneself, to really try these things. And I think that this is an important thing to do. And I think just have us have these kind of conversations is a good thing. And I mean, I'm sure there's people out there I'm sure you could meet, but I notice, I don't know, it gets a little chaotic at times, especially in social media. So they have these kind of little more, and I'd love to have people to join us that you know and I know in the conversation. So it's not just me kind of.
We need to get Roller up in here one of these days.
Oh, you mean
MJ.
You talking about Eddie?
Yeah, I'm talking about Eddie.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to him about it. He said it's above him. That's what he said. It's too high for him. It's too much. And I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? So
Because he's still deconstructing. He's in the very early stages.
right, and he's that internal war and war with Christianity, which I think it's a good thing. It's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? If you focus too much on how
You'll get lost in it if you're not careful.
I know, man. That's why I was like, that's why I know it's something that it's offensive to a lot of people what I did, but the best thing I ever did in my I guess if the magic, the spiritual practice I ever did was burning that damn Bible. I'm sorry. For my sacred trees and turned it to ashes, mixed it with tobacco, and let go of it. And said, I don't
I
need it.
use mine as THC wraps for
Yeah,
like
I
a
there,
was
month.
just about to say I use mine as rolling papers.
it is pretty good for road papers, isn't it? It's just perfect, right? But
Almost.
I think that this is one of those things. How do you, the deconstruction process too? I think shamanism. I think it'd be very helpful for a lot of people if we.
I would actually recommend against that. Actually, if you're going to become a shaman, get through your deconstructing first.
No, I'm not
If you
saying
try to go into shamanism before that, it
no. That's not
is
what I'm
not going to
saying.
be pretty.
I'm saying, but the principles and the practices of shamanism, anybody can start applying in their lives.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to be a shaman. You don't even have to literally be a shaman. I mean, but shamanism itself, the principles and practices, is absolutely. I mean, for me, it's helped me cope with my deconstruction process. You know what I mean? I'm not perfect at it, and I'm trying to be a shaman, a magician. But at the same token, by allowing myself to let go of all of this stuff, to heal and move on, accept the whole package. Yeah. So I was hoodwinked like everyone else. Oh well. And there's a lot of things in this world that just ain't fair, and there's a lot of deception and cruelty in this world, and so you need to embrace it. When I say accept it, I'm not saying you necessarily have to be part of it, but you do need to like accept
Accepting
the
as a
reality.
reality.
Yeah, so you can navigate properly in your reality. You can say, okay, this is what's I should not expect any different, right? You know what I mean? Expectation is the big thing, a huge thing.
Cause and effect.
Yeah, cause and effect. And so, but if you got more reasonable expectations, you know, you be more balanced when you go through the turmoils and the ups and downs of life, the waves of life, because it's inevitable, right? And I don't want to sound too preachy about this stuff. I just want to just bring that up because I think that's shamanism is this the whole idea of it. I mean, just reading a book or two about shamanism, just trying a little bit in your life, it does make a difference if you allow it. You don't have to be a fanatic. That's what things happens when you're in a religion or this mentality. It's all or nothing type of thing, right? And that's not what I'm finding when it comes to my journey with it. It's not all or nothing. If you want to go further with it, you can, but it's not necessary. You know what I mean? You're not going to go to hell. You're not going to be damned if you don't go all the way. If somebody says so. Anyways, you got any closing marks, bro?
No, that pretty much covers it for me on this one.
Attitude of gratitude. Yeah, there you go, Aaron. Okay, folks, thank you very much. I'll end this with some music. And I like that song. I sure do like. I wish I recorded the whole song from Wizard. Is it Wizard Tattoo or Taboo, whatever it is? I like that song, so we'll play that again. And the rest of you guys have a great weekend.
You as well, man. Take it easy.
Good luck in the new job, or better yet, conquer that new job. And you know what I mean, bro? Take
Absolutely.
it by the balls. And the rest of you guys, everyone, take care.
You as well.
Thank you for having me.